So after doing Of Gods and Men, and now you're looking at Renegades, a couple years have passed, what were some lessons that you learned as a director on Of Gods and Men that you want to make sure you remember when you're doing Renegades?
I think the main thing, as far as working on a low budget project like Gods and Men and or on Renegades, any kind of indie film, you have to work within the budgetary restraints. You have to work with what you have. So the major thing about the process is, from my aspect, is flexibility. I got to be able to work with something I may have planned for, but I got to have a plan B and C. So my main lesson is, what's plan B and C? Always have that ready to go, because that day could come up and you don't have, the location you were supposed to have, or you don't have the actor you're supposed to have, or you don't have the props, or whatever it may be, and you got to have a plan B and C to go with right then and there. And so the flexibility is one of the major lessons, that and having a fallback, a secondary plan, because sometimes you don't, these things will happen. It's a difference between working on that and say, for example, an episode of a TV show, or working on an A picture with full funding. You may not get, the airplane shot that you wanted to get. You may not get this other thing or that location, and you've got to work somewhere around that. And I've always gone about the directing process also switching hats between director and producer. I understand, the limitations of budget. I understand that I may not be able to get the crane shot that I want, and I can do something maybe as a backup, or do something that's an alternate and still get a similar effect. So it's about trying to be creative with what you have to work with, and being flexible, and like I said, having a plan B and a C. When we shot Gods and Men, the entire movie was shot almost handheld. We had some sticks here and there, but almost all of it was handheld.
Interesting.
So, depending upon what cameras we're going to be using as well, because I'm not sure exactly what cameras we're going to be using. I don't know if we're going to be shooting this on 5 or 7 or Red Epic or Scarlet. I think AJ, our DP, has an Epic. He's an Epic or a Scarlet. He has a Red camera, I think. We might be shooting the whole thing on it.
I've worked on projects that use Reds, and I personally believe that for the overhead that comes with running that camera, it's it's worth just going with like a 5D.
I agree.
I mean, granted, you get 4,000 lines of resolution, but who cares?
Well,
you're going to be crunching it down.
You're going to be crunching it down. It's going to be, I just shot a whole web series on the 70, and that thing is spectacular.
Yeah.
It's spectacular. If you have decent lenses, you got high-speed lenses, man, you're done.
Yeah.
So.
This is my favorite part of the interview so far. This is good stuff. No, that's really cool. That's really cool. Okay, so where is Renegades filming?
Well, right now we're probably going to be getting a couple of locations from a location service to suffice for the Federation offices and building and things like that. We're probably going to be we're talking about using a studio out in the valley that has ship set already built.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to redress that ship set, and then we're going to probably build one of the layers for our bad guys in the story, so on the same soundstage. So we want to try to at least get 3 locations out of the one spot. We can park there for a week or whatever and get everything we need, and then move on. So that's what we're looking at right now, is a couple different places. Again, because it's a sci-fi piece, anything that we rent or use outside, of building something ourselves, has to suffice for it looking like it's in the future. And we're talking about the future, way out there in the future. So it's got to be very cool looking. And I've talked to the art director about it a couple of times, and we're going to go ahead and just get some location services on board and try to find a couple of really architecturally interesting spots that give us a future look, as far as a couple of the spots. But the ship stuff that we build or whatever we use, either it's going to be something that's already been built and we redress it, or we're going to be adding to it with construction. So.
Renegades has Kickstarter,
right,
and you made a ton of money on it.
Yeah, because it's fan-based. Sky, the producer, had one other project that he had put together called Free Space, which is a very cool story. It had a rogue sort of renegade feel to it, and I read that script and I thought it was a very cool story. But I looked at the price, looking at the price of the things, based on the script, I thought, oh man, it's a lot of bread to do this. And he was going to launch that project initially, but then at the last minute decided to put together another Trek series pilot project to try to pitch. And in doing so, when you put that on, now you've got fans from one end of the world to the other who haven't seen a new series.
Yeah.
And boy, if they could be part of getting this thing launched,
Yeah.
you know, even if it's a small part, just to be able to see it.
Yeah.
To have something to look at.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to look at as far as
Right.
you can do. So you really can't go wrong, and that's exactly what he did. Strategically, that's a very good plan for raising money, is simply
Yeah.
let the fans support it, you know.
Yeah, it's great because I guess like if you're saying, if you haven't seen something that fits in this universe for, I mean, what's it been? When did, I guess Enterprise went off the air?
Probably
long ago?
2002, maybe.
All right, so 10 years.
2003,
It's
yeah.
been 10 years
Yeah.
since there's been non-JJ Trek in existence.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, I guess like if you could give $10 and then see
Yeah.
something new, that's
See
a
something
great
new?
deal.
Totally, and potentially down the line. I mean, if we're lucky, we can get this thing on and do it as a series. Yeah.